All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to What's Your Story? I'm really excited for the guest that we have on today. She's someone I met, I believe, about 4 to 5 years ago at this point. I think it was 2016 or so. I was out in Boston. I was working out there as a coach, and I joined a Lifetime Fitness. And at that point, I met her there. And I believe that this time she was a personal trainer. I know she took on more roles and more responsibilities over time, but that was when we initially met. I think we connected at a pretty good level because we saw, why we both got into it in a very similar way, just really trying to help people and just trying to make some type of impact. Over the years, we kind of stayed in touch a little bit. And as things got to the point they are with the virus and everything now, I thought this would be a perfect time to get her onto the show, talk about her journey and how she, started from point A to point B to get to where she was. I think it's a very inspiring story. It just shows when you're focused on one thing and have a goal, you can accomplish a lot. And she's done so much in a very short period of time. So I just want to talk about her story. And at this point, I want to welcome Sama to the show.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for having me today.
Of course.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. So I know we tried to do this a little bit. It's taken a little while, but I'm excited to have you on.
Same here.
So at this point, I want to, before we get into like the fitness side, I think it's interesting where it all started for you. And I want to go back to 2009. So at this point, you're in Iran and you were studying architecture. So initially, what got you into that and how did that lead into the fitness industry?
Well, here's the thing. When I was a teenager, I always thought that architecture is my real passion. And I remember I was like 13 or 14. So and I was like, yeah, I want to be an architect. Like being an engineer was like a big deal in our family. And I was also kind of good in art. I used to paint and I was very good in math. So I was like, well, architecture is the perfect, combo. So I got into architecture for my bachelor. And for some reason, I kind of got into like just working out. I never used to work out. Like even I remember that we had this, like an hour every week at school that, it was just like different sports that we used to do, like basketball, volleyball, like different things. And I didn't even like really enjoy doing any type of sports. And I used to like really enjoy just like sitting and studying and reading. But my husband, that he used to be my boyfriend back in the day, like once he was like, yeah, he was so into like bodybuilding and working out. And he was like, Sama, like, what if you just start working out? Like, I feel like, you're just like gaining a little bit weight. And I was like, okay, sure. So, I started working out and then like in a blink, like literally in like a couple of months, I was hooked. I really started like enjoying it. I started like seeing the changes in my body. And I never thought like this is something that I really like, just like working out. And then I started working out with a friend of mine that, I started like becoming the friend with her at the gym. And she was going through certification to become a personal trainer. And then I was like, yeah, might as well. I started like studying now that I really enjoy this. So I started, going through the certifications and I just like fell in love like more and more. Like the more I learned about like the physiology, like the science behind exercising and everything related to fitness, it just like really got into me. And that was like the moment that I started just like going one after another. I was just like a certification junkie.
Right.
And like fast forward in a year and a half, I became a personal trainer. And I was studying architecture alongside, but I really got into fitness, and that where I just like pick being a personal trainer as my real career. And even when I finished architecture from a bachelor, I never pursued architecture as my career, so I never worked as an architect, basically.
Gotcha. Were people supportive, family, friends on that transition? Because you said that was kind of a big thing. You always wanted to be an architect. Financially, that's a pretty well-off career if you go into that direction. So how was the reaction when you started to talk to people about transitioning to that?
That's a very good question, Jeff. Like this is something that even today, I can say like this is one of the biggest battles, because not just in my family, in just like Iranian's culture, in Persian culture, like um like you should become an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. Like these are the fields that typically like everybody that they're good at studying, they typically go into. So like I was a very good student at school, and just like from that point going to person training, it's like a red flag, you know. But you know, through the years I kind of like showed everybody, not only my family and my relatives, but also like, you know, my friends and like whoever that know me, that they actually saw that this is my passion, and like what I actually do in this field is it's different. So that, you know, kind of like gave me a lot more energy and passion to just do more and more. And but still sometimes it can be a little bit of battle.
Yeah. Do you feel like that kind of motivates you more, the fact that people are kind of pushing you away from doing the training? You're like, I'm going to prove you wrong type thing at all? Or was it more you just was like, this is my passion. I'm going to kind of shut that out and just do my own thing?
Definitely the second one, because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm that type of person. I'm very conservative, I would say, to some degree, just in general in life. I'm not like a risky person or like going for adventures. Like that's not my personality. So definitely the second one, because I just found this is my real passion and I really enjoy it. Like when I go to work, I typically work at Lifetime for like anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day, and I just like sometimes like, you know, physically I feel tired, but mentally like I just really enjoyed it, and like doing it over and over again, it just like makes me happier and happier. It's just like even like during quarantine, I was like, I'm just gonna go nuts. Like I really need to do something. So I really like step up my game in social media, because this is something I really wanted to do, but I never had the time. You know, when you work like 50, 60 hours a week, you just don't have energy. Like, and when it's weekend, you're just like, oh, I want to do something different, just like nothing related, you know, to work. You probably can relate to that. But this is a different time. Now I can do some stuff that I really wanted to do, but I never had the time.
Right. So now you can really focus on the branding side more, putting out more content, maybe expanding, you know, more people that know about you and what you're about, you know. So
Right.
with the transition now, so you started training and you're still in Iran at this point. How long were you training there? And were you just doing kind of one-on-one training there? And then when did that transition to you deciding to kind of take the huge leap to come over to the States?
So, I worked as a personal trainer back home for about like 4 or 5 years. And I always wanted to immigrate to the United States. Like that was my one of my biggest dream, even when I was like a teenager, like, you know, maybe like I was 11 and 12. I really wanted to like come to the United States, because most of my relatives and my family, they live in the States. So and it was only like my mom and my family and my grandparents that we used to live in Iran. So I always like felt this, you know, piece in my life that I'm missing, which is, you know, my cousins, my aunt, my uncle. Like I always wanted to be with them, but I never had a chance. And you know, because of the situation, like they wouldn't travel that often. We couldn't come here, so it was just like, you know, I've never saw them besides through like a Skype or maybe I don't know, whatever, just like Facebook
Right.
pictures. Um, so when I got married, both my husband and I, we decided to immigrate for higher education. And that was like our biggest reason that we wanted to immigrate. And so when we moved to the United States, you know, my husband, he kind of like went through that direction, but I was kind of like hesitant between to do my master and which field really I wanted to do, like physiology, exercise science, nutrition, like the you know, the fields that I was really passionate about it. But it kind of like got me into a different direction to work on my business and my profession in a different level, and you know, getting new positions. So it was kind of like very challenging for me to kind of like stop that, because if I really wanted to go back to school, um, I really need to have a lot more time to do that. So I couldn't probably like pick which one I wanted to do. I mean, to this point, I kind of like gave up on going to school, but maybe I would go back at some point. But yeah, that was like the biggest reason. And since we moved here, it's about like 4.5 years that, I'm still doing personal training.
What's the biggest difference from the fitness industry there to the fitness industry here? Is there a big difference?
That's a very good question. Well, first thing first, in Iran, gyms are not mixed. So in the morning, typically it's for women, and in the evening, it's typically for men. There are some
Interesting.
gyms that, it's, I would say, like, like the full shift is for, it's only like women only gym, and some gyms are like men only. But typically, like, it's two shifts. Like in the morning is for women, in the evening is for men. That's why I never trained any male clients. That's one of the biggest difference, comparing to back home. I had some online clients, I just gave them like programs to follow, but like physically training a male client, I never had that experience back home. Then I'm thinking what would be different. I don't know, maybe like culture wise. So I think here is more about like just health. People exercise, it's part of their lifestyle. I would say to some degree. People come to the gym and then exercise on a day-to-day basis and routine. But back home, like the person that who goes to the gym, it's either they wanted to lose weight or it's a luxury. So especially for somebody who is hiring a personal trainer is more just a luxury. They have the money, they're wealthy, and they can afford a personal trainer, and then they hire you as a personal trainer. Versus here, it's very different. I would say it can be like 50-50. Probably can relate to that too. But there are a lot more people that they do care about their health, and that's the reason they hire a personal trainer to help them, to just be healthier rather than just like having a particular goal or physique that they really wanted to reach to.
So now you're obviously training a ton of males, ton of females in course of that. What was was there a challenge or difficulty, or did it kind of seamlessly just work out when you started to take on male clients when it comes to maybe training them, or is it pretty smooth transition for you?
Okay, let me tell you the first experience I had with a male client. It was a good one. So I used to work at Boston Sport Club, and I remember that the first male client that I had, I was like, well, I always had this picture in my head that male clients are typically just in general. Um, I would say guys are way stronger than girls, right? Just in general.
Right,
So I was
naturally.
like, I can like literally torture this guy to death, and then he can survive. So I picked a couple like very cool exercise. Back in the day, I was like, well, yeah, I can just like make this circuit, and he definitely would buy. It would be buy-in. Uh, so it got to the point. It was a discovery session, just like like the initial session. Um, I probably like had him to do like maybe 3 or 4 exercises. And then he was like, oh, do you mind if I just go to the bathroom real quick? I was like, yeah, sure, no worries. Take your time. So he just went in, and it was just like 3-4 minutes that he didn't come back. So I asked my manager, and I had him to go to male locker room to see what's going on. So poor guy, he threw up.
Of course.
Yeah. So that was my first experience with a male client, which wasn't, which is not I'm proud of, but
Right.
yeah, that was true. But I learned about it, and I was like, well, it's not just about like being a guy. You can be in a different fitness level, for sure, and it really doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy.
Yeah. So it was an interesting first experience.
Yeah, it was funny. I would never ever forget it.
No, it's good though. But I mean, you learn a lot from it too, and at the same aspect, it's it. But you're right. I mean, naturally, just genetically, guys have bigger frames, naturally stronger guys. But when it comes to like, I'm sure the conditioning is what just crushed his life.
Of course.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So you started training over here. You were at Boston Sports Club. How long were you there until you got the opportunity to work at Lifetime?
I think about like 8 or 9 months. Yeah, I
Okay.
moved to Boston in June. I started working there in August, and I got hired through Lifetime in February. But we grand open in June, so we started basically the pre-certification, the pre grand opening process, like 2 months before. So it was like kind of in April. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
almost 4 years. Yeah, yeah, four
Crazy.
years. But now
So
I'm not employed, so.
I know. So are you in a situation now where you're able to get any help from Lifetime, or is it just tough for the trainers right
No,
now?
well, basically they had to furlough the whole employees.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you're getting paid through unemployment right now.
Gotcha. So you started Lifetime. If anyone doesn't know, I mean, obviously I'm familiar with it. If someone doesn't know what Lifetime is, how would you describe that gym? Because it's one of these, I would say between like Equinox and Lifetime, they're two of like the biggest in the country
Right.
when it comes to like higher end clientele, nice area, full amenities. I guess your explanation of kind of describing it, but also what role did you take there? You initially came in as a personal trainer.
Yeah, so initially I came in as a personal trainer when we grand opened, but fast forward in 3-4 months, I took over the position for group training coordinator, which is our small group training program, GTX and Alpha. And about almost a year ago, I decided to become a metabolic technician because we also have different departments in Lifetime. We have person training, but then under the roof of person training, we have metabolic department, we have nutrition department, and small group training department. So I'm the manager of the head department, the manager of the small group training program. But I really like believe in what Lifetime does, and like we believe in core 3 method, that these are the 3 pieces of the puzzle. How's your metabolic rate, basically your resting and your active, and how's your nutrition, and then your movement. So these core 3, I really highly believe in that, and I was kind of doing them all, but not like actually being a metabolic technician to be able to do the tests, and also a nutrition coach to be able to help people through their nutrition and their diet. So I decided to also become a metabolic technician a year ago and also a nutrition coach. So I went through the certification for both of them. And since about a year ago, I'm kind of doing them all.
Yeah, like you said, you got a million things going under your belt.
Right.
Because then
Yeah.
you
And I
also,
like it. Like I
yeah,
know a lot of my coworkers, they just wanted to do one thing. They just like person training. That's it. Like they wanted to do 40 hours of person training a week. But I personally like that flow. Doing different things, person training, group training, the nutrition coaching, doing a couple tests, doing some admin stuff for my department. So I like that flow throughout my day. And I know it's like a lot on my plate, but I believe I can handle it, and because I really like to do them all.
right. And then you also had the Techno Gym personal training cert, right?
Yes.
And what
So
exactly is that?
that's basically, so I work for Techno Gym as freelance, and I think the main reason that they hired me as a Techno Gym master trainer was basically to help Lifetime grand openings, because as you know, most of the Lifetime equipment is Techno Gym. I would say about 90%. And these are top-notch technology, high brand equipment, and definitely trainers, they need to be educated on the piece of equipment to be able to help members to understand how to efficiently can use that piece of equipment. So that's why they hired me to help most of the Lifetime facilities, because Lifetime has been rapidly growing and opening up about like anywhere from 10 to 12 new locations every year. And I've been working with Technogym for about 3 years, but also I had a chance to go to different expos in Canada, in Boston, and some private clients to help them, to be able to utilize the piece of equipment.
So this is kind of a little off topic to a question to an extent, but in regarding to like, I don't know if this is how you grew up, or maybe it was your family had a big impact on this, but you're obviously a very motivated person. You're consistently wanting to get better. You wanted to grow. It seems like you're very positive. Was that something that you feel like you developed as you got older, or was that something you feel like it was instilled at a young age for you that consistently pushed you to keep getting better and better? Because like you said, a lot of people want to do one thing, the 40 hours, or whatever, and it seems like you're consistently just pushing and pushing and pushing to get better and better and better.
I think the second one, my personality is so different since I was a kid. I would say it's probably like 180-degree, not only physically, but also mentally. I'm very different. I used to be a very shy person. I wouldn't talk to anybody, just like, sit on the couch and do my thing. Even in the parties, like, I don't like mingle with people. Like, I was just a very different personality. But I think what really changed me, not only physically, but mostly mentally, was fitness. Like, definitely since I got into fitness, it really, really changed me. And like, just socializing with people, like being a personal trainer, I would say, and also a nutrition coach, number one, you should be a very good psychologist. But
Oh
then,
yeah.
yes, of course, like, this is like, I think the main reason working with one-on-one clients, having a full attention to the person and working with different type of people. Like, I had clients from, like, definitely you can relate with that, like a doctor or like a hairdresser or a lawyer, like so many different type of clientels, like especially right now from different cultures, different nationalities, different languages. So it just like expand your experiences. And I think that's the main reason that it really changed my personality too.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, when I got into it, I was kind of the kid that was friends with everybody, but kind of quiet, didn't really have a clique or a group or anything like that growing up. So, but same thing, shy, played video games until I got out of high school and then found fitness. But that's where my confidence built. So that was for me like everything, because I wouldn't even have anything now or be where I was if I didn't have that confidence come from it. So it's interesting too, because like I think that's the majority of people that find fitness get hooked with it, and it just opens them up. It builds confidence. You feel better about yourself physically, mentally. It's just a win-win all around. When it comes to the clientele, you brought up you're working with, you said different nationalities, things like that. Do you think coming from Iran and training there and then training here and you speaking multiple languages, being very diverse, that's helped you a lot with your coaching?
Of course, one of my coworkers, she always tells me, she's like, "Oh, it's just because of your accent, Samo. You have all
Everyone's
these
like, I want
clients."
to train with you.
Yes, like, yeah, that spot and your accent, that's the reason that you get all the clients in the gym.
Right.
But yeah, I'm definitely one of the busiest trainers at our location. But I don't know, maybe not. But I don't know. To be
Yeah.
honest, like, it can be a combination of everything, like my passion, word of mouth, my accent. You
Yeah.
never know, maybe. But I have so many clients from different nationalities, but most of them, they're Americans. So like when I moved here, especially, I remember my last interview with Lifetime, and this is even like almost a year after I immigrated to the United States, which is funny. I still have those thoughts in my head that I'm a second citizen, like how an American can trust me with this background and everything. And also, like, I used to teach English back home, and I relatively am a good English speaker. But when you move to the States, like, when I compare myself to a native person, so it's definitely a big I would say difference. So I remember my interview with my general manager, I mean my previous general manager, because he left the company. Yeah, he told me, he asked me, what do you find yourself as your weakness right now? Like, what's your weakest point? Basically, something like that. Like, they typically ask this type of question in the interviews, right? But
Right.
I was kind of naive. Like, I didn't have that much experiences in um, these type of interviews, because it's very different from back home. Anyway, I was like, well, I think my English, like, I relatively can speak it very well, but I'm still, like, I would say so behind comparing to a native person. And he was like, do you think I can speak Persian? I was like, I don't think so. I was like, well, definitely you have a bonus because you can also speak another language. So you can speak 2 languages right now. So you have a priority than me. I was like, wow. So that was like a click in my head in that moment when he told me something like that. I was like, I never thought it that way. And definitely that was a turning point for me in terms of like building my confidence. So that was a very good memory.
Yeah. I think to your point, when you're like, it could be a lot of different things, but talking with you when we, in person back, when I was first there to now, I just think you give off a very good positive energy, a high energy. And I think that just translates to a lot of people. A lot of trainers can be good coaches when it comes from the physiology. Maybe they know biomechanics. Maybe they're the greatest programmer alive. But if you're not like personable, outgoing, energetic, and just like people don't gravitate you, I think that's where a lot of people are going to struggle as they get deeper and deeper in the field. Because and this is just my thought, people come for training, coaching to get better, but they stay because they develop such a great relationship with the coach. So like, you could be giving the client good results, but you still got to see the person 2-3 times a week. So you got to have that personable personality, that outgoing personality. And I think that's what probably a big part of what yours is, because you can just tell like you're high energy, you're doing it for the right reasons. And I'm sure that comes off to your clients, and that's why a big part of it,
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. So I want to ask a question. I guess this is, you can kind of take it in any direction as you want, or maybe the first thing that comes up in your head. And I think a lot of people look at you, maybe myself, they're like, you came from Iran, you were a coach there, you're a coach here, you're crushing it, you're building your brand on social media, you're one of the best trainers or most busiest trainers at Lifetime. Everything's perfect, everything's great. And they don't see like the ups and downs of like the journey to get to where you were. So when maybe in the fitness field, or it can be out of the fitness field, but like, what do you think one of the difficult struggles you had, or something that was like, everyone goes through hard times, but what was something that, was a very difficult thing for you, maybe in the fitness industry or transitioning from a different country, that maybe at times maybe questioned like, oh, this is going to be hard. How am I going to do this? Is there anything that comes to mind when you think about that?
Absolutely. I think everybody has their own struggle on their path. For me, I kind of like mentioned them all throughout our interview today.
Yeah.
Like the biggest one for me was number one, the culture thing that I told you. Like, being an engineer and an architect, and then all of a sudden, shifting to personal training, that was a big, red flag
Right.
there. And then the second one, definitely immigration. Because I thought it would be very easy, but there are a lot more into it, and I think that's the most challenging and the most struggle for me till today, that I've been experiencing in my whole life so far. And then like day-to-day struggle is always there. Some days you just like don't feel like training clients, and you're just
Right.
so exhausted, like just mentally, because it's not easy. Like imagine if you work 50 hours a week, and like how many clients you're like dealing on a day-to-day basis, like between group training, nutrition coaching, one-on-one training. So there are a lot of communication there, also with your coworkers, the leadership team. So it's just like a lot of like, I would say, not just like physical tiredness, but also like mentally. And also especially like since I became a nutrition coach, that's like a new struggle for me in my career, because training a nutrition client, it's so different from training a client, just like for the workouts. So it has its own struggles, and I've been reading a lot, and listening to a lot of like audiobooks, how to become a better nutrition coach, because you think about like um, uh, psychology and person training, but I would say you need to triple that number for nutrition training.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a lot of struggle, but you know, you just need to keep learning and keep moving. I think the biggest problem for a lot of trainers is that when they get content and they're like, well, I'm good, I'm very professional, like I have this amount of experience, so I know what I'm doing. And that's the moment I think would be the flip point for a trainer. I mean, in any career, that you just like stop there and you don't grow anymore. You just need to keep learning and learning and learning, so you can grow and grow.
I think it's great advice. And to your point with the nutrition side of it, it's a whole nother game because you're dealing with a lot of people nowadays. I see it a ton is people with eating disorders. Social media probably is a big influence on a lot of like expectations to look a certain way, be a certain way, especially in that
Absolutely.
side. So that's a whole nother game because now you have to kind of be that psychologist side of it and making sure you're talking them in the correct language, just properly going about the whole thing. And it turns into a whole another game, to your point. I love how you described a lot of that. What are some strategies that you do from like a day-to-day basis to maybe like you used audiobooks, for example, to keep trying to get better, be positive? Are there things you do like meditation or reading or things like that on a day-to-day basis that you're always trying to improve on and keep a better mindset?
So what I have been doing, especially in quarantine, that I have a lot more time and I can basically do the stuff that I really like to do. I every day, every single day, I go for 1 hour to 1 hour and a half walk, and I listen to audiobooks. So I started with this book called How to Become an Influencer, and I loved it. I highly recommend that to whoever is personal trainer or a nutrition coach, because or if you're looking to grow your own brand and to be a better influencer, because I believe like us as personal trainers and nutrition coaches, we are an influencer. So you just need to create your own brand and what's your niche and how you want to represent yourself. And the other book that I'm currently listening is motivational interviewing, which I love it so much. It's absolutely game changer for me, especially for being a nutrition coach, because interviewing can be, as a coach, you can be very mean to some degree, but how can you lead the person and how can you influence the person to do what you ask them to do? That's the whole point, right?
Right.
So, and this is like how it's teaching you the tactics and the techniques that you can work with a client to get them to that point that you want them to be. And I've been doing yoga every night. Yoga was one of the things that I always wanted to do, but because, like lack of time or lack of motivation, I haven't been doing it that regularly, which I love to improve my flexibility. That's the main reason, not to be able to do handstand, this kind of stuff. I'm not a gymnast. I tried it when
Right.
I was very young, and that definitely didn't work. um, and actually, that can be one of the struggles and the turnoffs for me, just being in sport. Because I remember when I was like 5 or 6, my mom had me to go to a gymnastic class, and my teacher was so mean. I remember I didn't have that much basically talent or maybe flexibility to be able to do the exercises that she asked us to do. And she used to separate me, just me. Can you
Wow.
imagine like how mean can you be? Separate me, and then she had me to do the previous exercise that they were practicing for a week, and then she had them to do the new exercise that they just taught them. And like I did it for like maybe like a month or two, and I stopped it. I was like, no, this is not for me. And I just felt so embarrassed as a kid. And I felt like I never have like any good relationship or experience with any type of sport. You can like easily relate that to anything related to sport. Anyway, so I started doing yoga a lot more, and I really been enjoying it. And I do my home-based exercises, like body weight exercises. I don't have any equipment at home besides a couple mini bands, and I don't have that much space. So it's been a struggle in terms of my strength, but I just like look at it from a different point of view. That I'm happy that I built my strength to some good degree for the past few years. So like maybe this is the time that I can focus on something else, just like, you know, decompress, relax, go for a walk, and just do yoga and maybe some body weight exercises. Why not?
Sure. No, it makes sense. Now you got to send a video to your old dance instructor or gymnast instructor or whatever she was
Yeah,
of doing those movements, but
I
like on
know.
another
If I
level.
can't find her,
Right? Just send it
like,
out,
see, I'm
blast
that
it.
person.
Right? But doing it twice as good. Um, yeah, audiobooks are huge. I never did well in school with reading English, things like that. I'm an atrocious writer. I spell everything wrong. I don't know what it is with that, but audiobooks have been huge for me, like
Right.
podcasts and audio. I got through doing my bachelor's in exercise science, and I don't think I ever completely read a full book because I just I was watching like YouTube videos of like 3D anatomy and stuff like that. I just don't retain it well. So I think a lot of people would be for that struggle with reading or can't stay focused. Audiobooks are huge. So
Yeah, and it's like literally one stone, two birds, because I go for a walk, you know, I increase my needs, and then I listen to audiobook. So
yeah, it's a win-win. So before we get finishing up in a few is I want to talk a little bit about the social media stuff you put out, a lot of the content you're putting out now. So I guess in a broad perspective, what kind of content are you just trying to promote, like health, fitness, nutrition, like all that stuff, or how would you describe a lot of the content you're trying to put out right now on your page?
so basically my main focus right now is to teach the lifestyle and have people understand like this is not just like a one day miracle that you decide that you want to lose the weight or look different or change your physique, and then you just like wake up and then do it for a week and then you get there. And it has its own ups and downs, and your goals may change throughout the years, because this is what really matters. And I think people like look at it, and also like, you know, I do blame this to some of my coworkers in this field and this industry, how they are marketing everything, which is sometimes can be so wrong. You can probably definitely understand what I'm
Oh
saying
yeah,
right now.
oh
So
yeah,
it's just so unfortunate, you know, with all this, you know, before after pictures, like, yeah, this client's transformation in like 6 weeks was like this, and then like, you know, people like they decide that they wanted to change their physique, and then they're like, yeah, I want to like, you know, see that difference in 6 months, 6 weeks. And like, yeah, some people can, but like maybe your journey is different. And I'm just like trying to like kind of like teach people to understand this is a lifestyle, and as long as you don't make it a lifestyle, even if you can create change for a short amount of time, that is not going to be a long-term change. And that's my biggest focus. And then the other thing that I got a lot of feedback from my followers was basically the education, especially in nutrition. And it was very surprising to me, because this is something that I feel like everybody needs to learn more. And they're like right now, like if you look at the different social media handles from the, you know, fitness trainers, like they post so many exercises. They're very creative, to be honest. Like sometimes I'm like, wow, how did you come up with this exercise?
right. I'm like, yeah. For me, it's like you're trying. I'm like, okay, do we really need to be?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is
For
cool and
me, it's
creative.
like, can you just stop this?
Yeah, like we're trying to reinvent the wheel here. You're like standing one foot on a Boso ball, curling something. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right. Yeah, I'm like, all right. This,
It's
keep
so
it simple.
unnecessary, right? But then
Right.
it can be very misleading, and I feel so bad for people that they don't have the knowledge and they don't understand like what's going on in fitness industry, and then they think they need to be able to do those exercises to get to the physique that they're looking for.
Right.
So I'm like really trying to teach the basics and teach the lifestyle and like the way that, you know, you can get there without doing those crazy stuff. Not
Right.
only in exercise world, but also in nutrition, which is so common with all these new diets out there, like keto diet, intermittent fasting, paleo, blah, like so many different diets.
Sure.
A lot of people are just like got into it, and it can, you know, have a lot of harm and damage to their bodies. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the marketing companies are just go having a field day with all these different diets and fad diets. Like you said, keto, paleo, vegan, you name it. And then all these companies take advantages of these I'm not afraid to call out companies. Like I have a friend that does a lot with like Herbalife, and I'm all happy if people are getting healthier lifestyles and feeling better. But when a lot of the claims a lot of these different companies make is like, this one protein shake is so special that it's going to change your life. Right. And it's like, no, it's 20 grams of protein with a lot of vitamins. That's all it is, and I think the nutrition side of it is so frustrating because it's so simple, but there's so much horrible information out there from people that maybe aren't as educated or trying to make money that it puts a flaw. So I think a lot of people respond well to you because they trust you. They know you're looking out for their best interest. You're not just trying to make money off them. And they get a source that has a lot of valuable information that they can trust. So I think that's what more people need to focus on, is putting out good content without the idea of trying to make money off someone, so you can build some trust with them. And I think its basic concept is, it's hard because at the end of the day, if you can eat mostly whole food, cut out minimally processed foods, and keep and if you just kept it that simple, it'd be really hard to be overweight and obese. Exactly. It's when you start to do all these other things, and the concepts are very simple, and that's what can get frustrating because these companies take advantage of it and try to do all these different things. But
absolutely.
So one last question I want to ask is, I kind of like the last question to be something that can give advice to someone. So what I want to ask is, if someone was just going to start getting into the fitness industry, they're not certified, they're 21, 22 years old, just started to want to get into it, what advice would you give someone at that age to start getting into the industry and start to pursue a career in that field?
So first thing first is that passion. Like, if you are passionate enough to make that decision that you wanted to be a personal trainer, that's the first thing. It's like, if you want to get married to somebody, the first thing is like to be in love with that person. If right. You're not, like, if the person is wealthy or whatever other factors the person has, like, it cannot bring your ultimate joy in your life. So same thing I would say in personal training, because it's an industry that you can absolutely make a lot of money and feel amazing. But also, if you're not passionate enough and educated enough, you cannot make that much of money. So like, it's safer for that person, if you're not passionate enough, to go and study a different field that it's guaranteed that when you're done with your college or your master, you're going to make this X amount of money. So it's kind of like like it's kind of like challenging to make that decision if you're not passionate enough. So first thing first, I would say passion is the most important one. Second one is, as I mentioned earlier, is having that thirst and will to learn every single day and just like not stay still, because this is a field that people are just like getting better and better, and there are like a lot more coming out, and some stuff are getting so fashionable. So if you just like sit and stay still, like you just feel you just like be left behind, and it would be very hard to pick up the pace to get into the front line. So education and being up to date every single day is very important. And then of course the third one is going for these resources that they're good resources, not just like some random research on Instagram or on Google that you find and be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to rely on to. So definitely going for the good resources that you can educate yourself to have that base. Then of course, by reading different researches or different resources, you can understand what is wrong and what is right. So if you have that baseline.
I love it. That's perfect. I want to end it like that. I think that's great advice for anyone that wants to get into it. And I think at the end of the day, is just, you have to be passionate about what you're going to do. And if you find passion for that, everything's going to follow and lead into the right direction. So, but thank you. Thanks again for coming on. I appreciate taking the time, and hopefully this will inspire and help, a bunch of people, follow a path that they want to get into, or maybe even the fitness industry.
Of course. Thank you, Jeff. I want to thank you for having me today. It was
Of
my
course.
pleasure.
Absolutely. So we'll talk soon. Until then, have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.